Hi everyone, welcome to our channel Siblings Banter.
Hello,
My name is Akriti.
and I'm Arvind.
Yeah, and then we welcome you to our world called Siblings Banter, where we talk about all things that siblings talk about.
Everything under the sun.
Yeah,
Yeah. What we're going to talk about in future episodes, we haven't decided yet. I'm sure we'll figure that out at
yeah,
some stage. But we thought it's really good to just start somewhere.
yeah. So this will be more about our backgrounds and our journeys in life so far. And yeah, please let us know if you're interested in a particular topic. We can include that in our future episodes. But here we go. Where are you from?
We came from the same mother, obviously. I came first. She was 7 years late. She doesn't believe it, but I did say, look, we probably need one more person in the household to make life difficult, and that's how she came to be. But in terms of our background, I come from a small village in North India, where I had a very basic standard of living. We went to a really small government school, and I wrote on a takti, even though it's a dying breed, and a lot of you would probably not relate to it. Meanwhile, she probably had better
Yeah,
exposure to the world.
yeah, our parents graduated by the time I was born. So I was born in a small town in Haryana. Really humble backgrounds, to be honest. But yeah, then I went to a really good school, not the taxi. Yeah, so I did have a good education background. So I did go to a good school and then went to uni, did my masters, and yeah, how has been your journey different than mine about moving to Australia?
Right. So I came to Australia as a hotel management graduate. I studied at Hotel Management College in Delhi. Came to Australia as a student to study to be a chef, something I was doing in college, but I decided to take it full time. So came here as a very young boy and a student. Life was quite difficult in those initial years when you're studying, you're trying to pay your bills, you are restricted on how much you can work and where you can work and what sort of jobs you can undertake. And from that point onwards, slowly and steadily, Australia being the land of opportunity it is, I've worked in a lot of different industries. I've worked in aged care, mining and resources. I've done a little bit of work in telecommunications here, the events industry. I was a qualified chef for 11 years and ran my own small restaurant at some stage. But now I'm a corporate guy. I work for the Australian Public Service, also known as the APS. So I am a public servant. Um, my journey was full of hardships. It's not easy being a student in Australia. It takes a long time to find your feet, particularly if you do come from a background such as mine. But how are you
Yeah.
finding it so far?
Yeah, and I think we are going to talk more about what are some of the things that you will be experiencing when you move here as a student. But my journey has been completely different. I resisted a lot before I moved here. So it took me a while after he moved here to kind of move to Australia. I moved in January this year, so it's not been too long. I'm still finding my feet, trying to learn a lot new things, and of course, I reach out to him for a lot
All
of
the time.
yeah, with a lot of questions. Yeah, so
But
my
you came as a skilled migrant.
yeah, I
A
did.
bit posh, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I said that it's been simple and easy for me compared to him. So I did not struggle too much. I came with a job and I had some money in my pocket when I came here. Yeah, so it's been comparatively easy for me. We'll probably talk more about what are some of the things that you will be experiencing when you come here as a skilled worker in our future episodes. So do let us know if there's anything that you're specifically looking for. We'll cover that in our upcoming topics. Um, but yeah,
Right. So when I came to Australia, I did not know anyone, not a single soul. I didn't have a lot of money in my pocket either. Um, just a vague dream of trying to make it in this country. And both countries are quite different from each other, even though over the last 10 years, I can see that bridge is now narrowing a little bit. But when I did come down in mid 2000s, it was a different story. It was a unique world. It was a culture shock. There was a lot to learn here every day. The only thing that I did have, and probably still have, is that my communication skills were at par. I was able to converse with anyone. Aussies will often give me a compliment in those initial days that, how come your English is so good, mate? Like, how did you do this? But for me, learning English was a necessity, considering the background that I had. It was really important that if I had to make it big in Australia or India, or even survive through the current corporate climate, I had to learn English.
Yeah.
So that was one of the easy things. And the other problem that you probably didn't face is that I couldn't ask anyone those questions because I didn't know anyone here. So I had to figure that out as I went along over a period of time and over many years. Whereas in your case,
I
I
had to just give him a call and ask.
Anytime.
Yeah.
And that still happens a lot. Like she'll call me with random thoughts and
the topic will go on and on and on. And there's one big difference. I think for him, Australia is home. And for me, India is home still. And I think that's how it's going to be for the longest time possible. So I compare everything that happens here with the things that happened back home in India.
And particularly the money. She loves doing the conversion right away. But once you've been in Australia for a while, you kind of stop doing that because there's no point to it. That's probably one of the biggest differences. In terms of her journey and my journey, that she had a good support system here. Within the first month, I was able to organize most of the paperwork and the documents and everything else that you require to kickstart a job. She started when she came. She started. Day one, she had a job. The moment she landed, she had a job. Whereas I had to slowly carve my way through lots of different industries to then land something that I'm happy with. And she's absolutely right. To me, Australia is home. I do have really strong connections in India, and India will always be the place where I was born, and it's the country where most of my family and extended family is. But Australia is definitely home, and you can probably tell the level of comfort that I have living here and Akriti has living here.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the challenge, what was the number one challenge when you came?
I think it started with finding a place to live. It's becoming really complicated. Like the housing situation is not too good. And by that, I'm sure you would have guessed we don't live close to each other. So another problem has been the distance. Yes, I knew him and I would call him with questions and he would be there to help me and support me. But we live 4.5 hours by flight from each other.
Literally on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
And when I say other side of the country, it is a huge landmass. You have to remember, it's not a country, it's a continent, and a big one at that. So for her to make her way back home this evening, she's about to catch a flight. It's going to take her nearly 5 hours, and she'll cover from east to west the entire landmass. So currently she's in Western Australia, and I live in Queensland. I previously lived in Victoria and also in the Australian Capital Territory, also known as the ACT, and a few other places. From countryside to big cities, my experience is a bit more varied compared to her limited experience. The annoying thing is that after all these years of persuading her, when she finally lands here, she lands in Western Australia instead of anywhere on the East Coast. So 4.5 hours, 5 hours to go and see her is obviously a bit of a mission. But I'm really happy that at least she's in the same country and we can see each other on important occasions and and any family events that we want to celebrate together. So yeah, really, really happy about Akriti now being in Australia.
Yeah, and then if you have a sibling and you're thinking of moving, make sure you move close to them so that you don't have to struggle in finding a house. Everything here is different than how it is in India. The way you buy groceries, the way you get food, the way you use applications. So it's very, very different. It took me almost a month, and I was still lucky because I had a stable work history. I came with a job, I had pay slips, I had access to a lot of people within Australia who will vouch for me, and my employer, people that I knew from back home. But for if you're thinking of coming here, make sure that you're taking all of these factors into consideration. You have a house when you come here, or you know someone you can stay with. I literally cried multiple times within my first month because I was ready to spend the money, and it's a huge amount of money, but then I was still not able to find a place. So I think that was my biggest challenge when I moved here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, I would like to uh, I would like to make a point here. The housing market or the rental market in Australia has not always been like this. We have managed to show upward growth trajectory of almost 40 years where we haven't had these issues. But the pandemic is a little bit to be blamed, and the current global conditions, the intake of migrants, the cost of living pressures at the moment, how the rate rises have kind of deterred people from selling properties and others from buying properties, which has led to a massive rental shortage in most big cities in the country. So, if you are thinking about moving to Australia, any part of the country, be prepared for an extended time that you would be spending looking for a place to live. Like Akriti said, it is probably a good idea to try and do your homework beforehand and do get in touch with people you know here and see if they can support you for a short period of time, one way or another. Because the last thing you want is you come here and you're trying to work in a new job, you've come across new people, new team, and then there's added pressure of looking for a place to live.
Yeah, and that happened when I came here for 10 days last year. I had a look at the places. I was aware of the challenges. I started looking at houses even before I moved here. But it's really tight at the moment. So please make sure that you're taking that one factor into consideration. Yeah, I think the other thing was the real estate agents. Oh, it's been such a nightmare when it comes to dealing with the real estate agents in Australia at the moment.
I think it's a nightmare to deal with all sorts of agents.
Yeah.
Insurance agents, real estate agents.
Yeah.
But they can't really do much. Like, they do try and make an effort, but they can't really do much at the moment. It's just one of those scenarios where the market is tight. It's not going to be like this forever. From what I've been reading and from the context that I've had with people, they're expecting 6 months later things will start looking up. What was your other biggest challenge, considering you already had a job, which is something a lot of people have to do when they come here?
Yeah. I think the second thing is they don't speak English. They have a lot of slang.
We do speak English, Matt. What are you talking about?
So yeah, they have a lot of slangs, and initially I would feel out of place. I think I still do at times because their context is different. They talk about, like, we talk about Bollywood movies, right? They have their own movies, they've got their own language, and it varies from state to state. So even though I haven't experienced too much, I work with people from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and the way they interact with each other is really different. So I would feel out of the place. I think that was another thing. And I did mention it to someone saying, what's the point of saying, hey, how are you going, when you're not interested in the answer? Because initially I'll stand and answer, how am I going? But yeah, that's just a way of saying hello here. They really don't want to know how you're going. So don't start with your ranting.
So we do speak English. Oh, let's call it, we speak Australian.
Yeah.
We do speak English. It's just that our English is quite different to the British English that you would be used to, or the American English, which is more mainstream in a country like India. Our English has evolved over a period of time. Australia has been a land of migrants for nearly 250 years now, and even in the gold rush, the Chinese people were coming here and doing business at some stage. And before that, it was the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are indigenous to the country, and they've been living on this land for 15,000 years or even more by some estimates. So we do speak English, but the problem is that our English has evolved over a period of time with a lot of different migrants mixing and being in the community together. It started with the Italians and the Greeks, and a lot of Europeans came after the World War. And now I look around, and it's mostly Indian people and Chinese people who are coming to the country. She's absolutely right. The way certain things are said would vary from state to state. But compared to India, we do not have 27, 28, 29. Who knows how many in future states. We only got limited number of them. We try not to subdivide them in little parts, but we would rather have a big chunk. Victoria is one of the smaller ones. Queensland is one of the bigger ones. But again, this is the Australian culture, and it'll vary from state to state and place to place a little bit. But we are very accepting of migrants in this country because that has been the norm for as long as people can remember.
Yeah, and if you're thinking of moving here, make sure that you grab a book on slangs, you read it, or you Google some of the commonly used slangs and you're aware of the language, because like he said, communication skills, even if you're good at English, I think Australian accent is one of the most toughest to understand.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Because we tend to speak really fast here as well. So unless you've spent a little bit of time here, a lot of those things will fly over your head. And I can say that from experience. When I did come here, like I mentioned, I had good English, but I still had trouble over the first 6 months. If you're a single person, try and date locals. That'll help you learn a little bit more of the language and the culture. But try and integrate when you come. One of the things people tend to do, and this is probably applicable to a lot of migrant groups, is they tend to live with each other.
Yeah.
Because there's strength in numbers, and they feel a bit more secure, and it's easy to communicate. But I'll be honest with you, except the first month when I landed in the country, I have not been in that situation where I did live in a massive house with 6 or 7 other people from my culture, and I really pushed myself. And sometimes it did lead to awkward conversations where I was sitting there nodding my head without understanding what's being said. But that's what actually taught me about the culture and where they're coming from, and to understand that context a little bit better as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the good part is that people are really friendly. So if you meet them, say hello to them, they would like to interact with you, they would want to talk to you. So they are really welcoming in terms of you being in their country. And generally, I found really nice people here.
They're foundation, they are very friendly. The foundation of the country is mateship, which is being accepting of each other and respecting each other's culture. And you will notice that from small little towns to major cities. In fact, in major cities, like all major cities in the world, people are really busy to invest time into each other, but they'll still help you out. We've had instances, and Akriti is probably touched by these episodes in her initial few months, quite a few number of times, and people have been really accepting and lovely to her, and they are helping us settle in the new country. Particularly your colleagues, they've been awesome, right?
Yeah, they have been amazing. So when I got the house, first of all, they were always really interested whenever I was going for inspection, and we'll probably talk about that.
How'd you go?
Yeah.
How'd you go?
They want me to get a house as soon as possible so that I start settling down here. But when I did get a house and when I finally moved into it, it was a difficult journey. When I did, I received housewarming gifts from my friends, and they were all people that I met recently, because I didn't know anyone in Western Australia. when I moved here. But slowly I started, they're very friendly, so they did interact with me. They got me presents. They accepted the fact that I was facing a challenge. They were always very willing to listen to me and to help me. I had someone who called the real estate agent and
Yelled at them.
yeah, because they were giving me a tough time. So that way, Australians are really good. They're very humble, or at least that's been my experience so far.
It's one of those countries where the feeling of community is very strong. So there are multiple examples that I've seen firsthand, but you could look through the news and you'll notice every time there has been a natural calamity, or one particular family or one particular household has been in a lot of trouble, the community will jump up. They'll try to contribute what they can, and they do really stand up for each other in small towns. In one of the recent episodes that I can remember, there was a Tamil family who was living in a small country town in Queensland, and their visa conditions were not met repeatedly over a period of time. So the community banded together. They wrote letters to the minister, the immigration minister, and eventually that family was allowed to stay in Australia, and they were granted permanent residency. So people are really, really lovely. If like any other country, if you are nice to them and kind and respectful, they'll definitely reply back in a kind and compassionate manner.
Yeah, from my experience, Indians have got a great rapport when it comes to being with Australians. I think during COVID as well, there were a lot of families that helped Australians, gave them food, took care of them as neighbors. So I think they considered really nice people.
Well, we don't really like to cause trouble, do we?
Yeah, no.
we tend to follow the laws, and we are here to make something out of ourselves and trying to make our lives better, whether it's improving your lifestyle, making more money, whatever your motivation is, or just to live in a place which is different to India. But we do contribute to the economy in a really positive manner, and it is now becoming more and more mainstream. Our presence in Australia is being felt in all spheres. We still have a long way to go compared to US and UK, but I'm pretty sure skilled migrants like this one will make that big difference. And
we can go on and on in our first introduction one, but then we'll probably get back to you with another interesting video.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I've got no off switch, you know this.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening to us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. Our very first video. And if you do like it, hopefully they'll like it.
Yeah.
We've done enough.
Yeah.
But if you do like it, we promise to make more, not only about Australia, but everything else that we can think of.
Yeah.
If you can think of a cool topic you want us to do a research or just have a conversation and you enjoy a brother and sister talking to each other about things, please do let us know. I'm going to repeat what everyone else does. Please do like and subscribe our channel.
Yeah.
Very first video, it depends on how we go, but we look forward to interacting with you
and hearing from you. We'll probably link our email ID for our channel so that you can send us a note or let us know your feedback or any inputs that you have on our channel. But thank you so much for listening to us. You have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah.
See you later.
See ya.